How do you feel about daylight savings time? I hate the time change. I am an RN specializing in dementia care. Our patients will have behavior issues anywhere from a few days to a month because they do better on a regimented schedule. This 1 hour change affects wake-up time, med times, meal times, activity times, bedtimes. Family members will bring them in for evaluation on medications and other ideas because of change in behavior. I always try to give a heads up this might happen, but a lot don't believe me even though we go through this every 6 months. But to care for someone with dementia can be exhausting, and then to have a schedule disruption will accelerate the behaviors. Hospitals will get a lot more ER visits from this population also because they have physicians that do not have the advanced knowledge needed for dementia care. If you know anyone that is a caretaker for a dementia loved one, this is the time to send a plate of cookies or a small little gift, especially from the family member that lives out of state and doesn't have to do anything. I will tell you, acknowledging the caregiver during time change would be a super nice thing to do. My grandmother has dementia and her caretakers have said that she's a sundowner because her demeanor changes pretty much instantly once it gets dark out. I imagine it's a common issue for dementia patients, but I don't know that for sure. Either way, I can imagine that DST messes with that a lot because it throws that timing completely off track. The two big sleep societies in the US, Sleep Research Society and American Academy of Sleep Medicine, both call for abolishing DST. Daylight saving time, DST, refers to the practice of advancing clock time by 1 h each spring, with a return, setting back, to standard time, ST, each fall. Numerous sleep and circadian societies other than the Sleep Research Society have published statements in support of permanent ST, and permanent ST has also received support from multiple medical societies and organizations. This perspective discusses the positive and negative health and economic consequences of permanent DST, permanent ST, and maintaining the status quo, DST, for part of the year. After a thorough review of the existing literature, the SRS advocates the adoption of permanent ST. The last several years have seen intense debate about the issue of transitioning between standard and daylight saving time. In the United States, the annual advance to daylight saving time in spring, and fall back to standard time in autumn, is required by law, although some exceptions are allowed under the statute. An abundance of accumulated evidence indicates that the acute transition from standard time to daylight saving time incurs significant public health and safety risks, including increased risk of adverse cardiovascular events, mood disorders, and motor vehicle crashes. Although chronic effects of remaining in daylight saving time year-round have not been well studied, daylight saving time is less aligned with human circadian biology, which, due to the impacts of the delayed natural light/dark cycle on human activity, could result in circadian misalignment, which has been associated in some studies with increased cardiovascular disease risk, metabolic syndrome, and other health risks. It is, therefore, the position of the American Academy of Sleep Medicine that these seasonal time changes should be abolished in favor of a fixed, national, year-round standard time. https://sleep-society.org/sleep-position-position-statement-position-standard-time/number-sign:\texт $20 shows $20 that $20 daylight $20 saving, dysregulation $20 of $20 melatonin $20 and $20 cortisol. https://sleepeducation.org/resources/daylight-saving-time. My biggest fear is that we get rid of it and go to year-round DST such that the sun doesn't rise until close to 9 in the winter. I used to work with elementary kids with autism and some other disabilities. I would get a lot of kids in my classroom who had come from day treatment or otherwise had major behaviors. I always knew to be wary of progress made before the fall daylight savings change. Kid could literally change overnight. Let's really shake up and shift the entire world clock 30 minutes to do half of DST permanently to compromise. The light issues are now half of what they were. Right? Now watch the chaos ensue. That is pretty much what India did when they took the whole nation to one time zone. Hence the half-hour offset rather than a full hour. That's what I want. Halfway would be perfect. Are you aware that there actually are some time zones off by 30 minutes already? A few at 15 too actually. I'd actually be down for that. I'm one of the few people who prefers standard time over daylight savings, so it sounds like a decent compromise to me. I would prefer we just stayed on daylight savings time and did not gain an hour back in the fall. It makes so much more sense to me to finish work and have some daylight left rather than going to work with daylight and going home in darkness. It's just so much more depressing. Depending on where you live, however, there will be some days either way that are dark when you leave for work and dark when you come home. I don't hate this idea honestly. The world would really need to agree on it or time zones would be fucked though, lol. I appreciate you and the other amazing human beings in your field so much. The job is incredibly challenging and demanding, and you put so much of your heart and soul into all that you do. You also sacrifice an enormous amount of your emotional well-being, time with your family, your mental and physical energy, your focus and attention. The job can often be thankless, and many people take you for granted, and don't appreciate how difficult your job can be. I had the pleasure of getting to know a few of you in my grandma's last year. They were so selfless, giving, gracious, compassionate, and empathetic. They did everything they could to ease her mind, soothe her anxiety and confusion, make her feel comfortable, secure, respected, listened to, but above all provide her with support and peace. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you. Words can barely express just how much I appreciate what you do, what you give, what you sacrifice. You are the real-life superheroes. You are angels in human form. Yes, I have been suggesting this for years. This is a thought that I have, and I'm not sure if this is possible, but would it be possible to change the way your facility does things so that things like bedtime, medicine, feeding times, etc. do not change even when daylight savings does? So the nominal time that the nurses are doing things changes, but the actual time perceived by the patients does not. I mean, what difference does it make to the nurse if they give their patient dinner at 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock? As long as that time is the same for the patient, it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, it would be a pain in the ass for staff, to be sure, but you could just shift everything in the institution an hour instead of changing the clocks. Just an idea. It's also clinically shown to actually kill people. One study showed a 24% increase in heart attacks and strokes on the Monday following the time change. It also causes cognitive issues and even changes in appetite and cravings. In other words, it stresses everyone out for basically no discernible benefit to anyone. Same with kids. A 6-month-old doesn't know the clocks were set back. I don't particularly care about the time change, so I was pretty neutral. But if it has such a big effect on such vulnerable people and their caretakers, I'll happy vote with you. Hoping that the next few weeks aren't too bad for you and your patients. Autistic parent checking in. I once worked at a LTC place where we just shifted the times we got our patients up so it'd fall in line with their physical and mental schedule. Unfortunately, that place went to shit and we wound up being forced to follow DST because we just didn't have enough bodies to get patients up an hour later than usual when fallback happened. Census was just too high and eventually resulted in second and third shift CNAs having 44 patients apiece. Fuck that place's shitty admin for running a former 5-star LTC into the ground with their greed. Hospitals will get a lot more ER visits from this population also because they have physicians that do not have the advanced knowledge needed for dementia care. Can you clarify what this means? I was fully on board till this part. Are you talking about hospitalists at SNFs who don't have advanced knowledge needed for dementia care, or the ed docs admitting patients who don't possess the advanced knowledge that you're referring to?